Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the latest moves from the government on the P&O crisis, which might sound like good news, but is actually just yet another example of how Conservative governments put laws in place that give the appearance of being for the common good, but then create loopholes so large that corporate interests just walk straight through. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news in politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, since I last spoke about the unexpected sacking of the entire British fleet of workers by the foreign-owned P&O Ferries, reminding us all, yet again, that essential public services really should be run by the government. And if they won't do that, at least make sure that the controlling interests are within the UK. A reminder that we paid no attention to, as in the middle of an energy crisis, we sold our energy grid to foreign investors as well this week. But I digress. Since I last spoke, the CEO of P&O Ferries, Peter Hebblethwaite, a guy with a very sensible northern name, but with anything but a down-to-earth northern nature, told Parliament that he deliberately chose to break the law when he suddenly sacked 800 British workers without warning or consultations. Now, apart from the consultations with Tory ministers, who seem to do nothing about it, that is. In fact, not only did Hebblethwaite tell MPs in Parliament on camera that he broke the law, he said he would do it again. Yeah, I did it. It was all deliberate. I'd do it again. No problem. Now, you can go into a long and complicated reason why that may be, but it's simple enough. If someone deliberately breaks the law, and especially when they're happy to admit it and they say they'd do it again, it means that the law is not being enforced. And a law that is not enforced is no law at all, which is something I'll be bringing up again later in this video. We were then treated to a bout of pretend outrage from Transport Secretary the hapless Grant Shapps. He said P&O were acting like pirates and had exploited a weakness in international maritime law. Not quite true, Shapps, my old son, is it? He exploited a weakness in your Conservative government. Note he didn't sack any EU workers. Not a single French ferry worker, for example, is sweating over this. It was about 800 exclusively British workers. That doesn't sound like an international problem to me. And just as with the impacts of Brexit that the Tories try and blame on global pressures, if the problem is only affecting Britain, it's a British problem. But never mind the spin, what is he going to do about it? The usual government procedure is to gnash their teeth and bemoan their lack of power despite actually being the government, and then leave it at that. But wait, what's this? Oh my goodness, some government action. Grant Shapps promised a change to the law with 9 commitments. Now, before you get too excited, there might be a few things to consider. The first is that a government commitment is rarely that. In the last couple of days, for example, the government have dropped their pledge to ban conversion therapy, blaming the cost of living and Ukraine crises. Yes, that is right. I'm not even kidding. April Fool's was yesterday, and they gave their excuse the day before. This is real. And it's not like this is their only commitment to have been failed. Remember their commitment to keep the triple lock on pensions? Not to raise income tax or national insurance? Oh, that they were going to help level up. They were going to have this marvellous new transport links in the north of England. All gone. Yeah, good joke. And they'll make exactly the same promises again at the next election. And despite having broken them, yet again, people will fall for it. Second thing to consider is a big one. It essentially comes down to the government's post-Brexit plans for what they call free ports, but that a number of people are saying much more mimics the US-style charter cities. So the government is promising legislation that will guarantee at least the minimum wage for seafarers. Okay, sound. That sounds good. But despite all this cobblers about international laws, where there is no minimum wage, obviously, the government can absolutely do this. But they have this plan for free ports. They claim it is a Brexit bonus. It isn't. We had free ports while we were in the EU. The Tories actually got rid of them because they were shit. Without going over the details again, they're basically low tax, low regulation zones. The idea is to build them in areas where there aren't really many opportunities, so you can persuade businesses to set up there. However, the two main problems are they don't generate growth. They just shift businesses from one part of the country to another. Second, as the incentive is not paying as much tax, they don't pay as much tax. So tax revenues go down and the money available for public services also goes down. But it's the low regulation thing that is the kicker. So Shapps brings in this law to demand ships pay their workers properly, so that they are not encouraged to replace British workers with cheap foreign labour. Okay, fine. But then they dock at a free port and they get to ignore that law because that's what free ports are. They ignore those laws. Freedom of responsibility for corporate interests is what a free port is. Oh, and a life free of security for the inhabitants and workers. Like I say, they bring in a law that sounds like it will deal with the problem, but leave massive holes in it, so it is of little to no practical use. But it goes on. Never mind free ports. The third issue is that Shapps commits to asking British ports to bar access to ferry operators which do not pay the minimum wage. Hang on a minute. You're going to ask ports to bar these operators. You're not going to demand it. As I say, free ports aside at this point, this law is now worthless everywhere. It's every port. Because ports aren't going to bar access to these vessels because they'll be turning away business. If the government is serious about this, they won't ask ports to deny service. They will compel them with legislation. Later on, he says penalise companies who use fire and rehire. What? Penalise? Not stop them. Not make the practice illegal as Labour are going to do in government. No, just penalise the companies. So you're still going to allow it. You're just going to charge the company a fee for being able to do so. Fifth, he then says take action against company leaders that break the law. Okay, I mean, at this point, I'm not convinced that action will be particularly robust. Will they be barred from holding any executive position in any business with operations in the UK? I doubt that's what he means by action. I'm guessing what it means is they'll send a strongly worded letter. At this point, you start to see why Hebblethwaite was happy to tell MPs that he broke the law and would do so again. He knows there are no consequences. He knows there will never be consequences with the Tories in charge. In fact, I wouldn't bet my life that he didn't run through his answers in advance with government ministers. Should I just lie and say I didn't realise I was breaking any rules? No, don't worry about it. Nobody gives a shit, mate. I'll denounce you on social media and send you a threatening letter. You chuck it in the bin and you'll never hear from me again. Nice one, Grant. Thanks, mate. In fact, even without casting a very critical eye on the so-called 9 commitments from Grant Shapps, you can see they're not really commitments at all. Of the 9 so-called commitments, 4 of them involve asking various organisations to do things. Asking. That's not a government commitment to actually do anything. One of them is to carry on doing what we're already doing. It didn't help this time, so why would it help in future? One of them involves an aim, but no plan for achieving it. 2 of them involve letting companies carry on with these practices, but wag our fingers sternly at them when they do it. Only one of them involves legislative action, and even that is not going to happen in any practical sense. Even when this government do promise action, and even when you're drunk enough to believe their promise, the action that emerges is completely worthless if it happens at all. That's what this government does. A lot of show, waving of arms in the air, and then the rabbit that was always there pops out the hat and they expect a round of applause. I mean to say, get rid of them. I know we've got years more, but get rid of them when the time comes. They're not going to protect your jobs. They're not going to deliver your prosperity. They're not going to help you with the soaring cost of living. Get rid of them. Well, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.